Good morning, everyone. In this class, we will see the gross anatomy of the thyroid gland. In the last class, we have seen the development. Now, in this class, we will see the gross anatomy of the thyroid gland. Do you know the special features of the thyroid gland? Interesting features. Thyroid gland is the only endocrine gland which depends on the external environment for its production of the hormone. What is that external source it needs is the iodine. And the second peculiarity is it is the only endocrine gland that stores the hormone after producing it and releases whenever necessary. And another interesting feature is it has rich vascularity. Even we can compare this vascularity to that of the large excretory organ kidney. So that some interesting features. With this, we will start the today's class. Gross anatomy of the thyroid gland. It is situated highly vascular ductless gland situated in front and sides of the trachea opposite to the fifth, sixth and seventh cervical and first thoracic vertebra. Do you know the meaning of the thyroid gland? Thyroid gland, thyroid cartilage, thyroid meaning is shield like, covering some structures behind it is shield like. So this class we will see under the following headings: situation, special features, capsule of the gland, presenting parts, lobes and isthmus, arterial supply, venous drainage, lymphatic drainage and nerve supply, and lastly will be the applied anatomy. Thyroid means shield like. It's a highly vascular ductless gland. Vascularity now only we told we can compare even with that of the kidney. Situation in front and sides of the trachea. So it is in front of the tracheal rings, second, third, fourth tracheal rings. Opposite to the fifth, sixth, seventh cervical and first thoracic vertebra. It is situated in front and sides of the trachea. In the last class, we have seen in the development of the thyroid gland, thyroglossal duct passes in front of the hyoid bone, in front of the thyroid cartilage. When it reaches in front of the trachea, it divides into the bilobed mass that forms the primordium of the lobe and isthmus of the thyroid gland. That is how it is situated in front and sides of the trachea. So it is exactly situated opposite to the second, third, fourth tracheal rings. This is very much clinical important point. All the students should note. It is what clinical importance is. For example, you want to open the trachea for some procedures. That procedure will be called as tracheostomy. So if you want to open the trachea, you have to open above the thyroid gland or below the thyroid gland. That will be called high tracheostomy, high level tracheostomy or low level tracheostomy. And we can't open opposite to the second, third, fourth tracheal rings because this is the situation of the thyroid gland. In relation to the vertebra, opposite to the C5 to the T1 levels. So situation we have covered. Now the coverings. It has true capsule and false capsule. Any organ, true capsule will be formed by the stroma of the gland, and here the false capsule is formed by the deep cervical fascia. That fascia is the pretracheal fascia. I think in the deep cervical fascia class, you should have learned pretracheal fascia. It is the fascia derived from the investing layer, and it is the pretracheal fascia. So in this picture, you can see the pretracheal fascia and its extent of the pretracheal fascia. This pretracheal fascia, if you trace it above, after attaching to the gland, it is attached to the hyoid bone in the midline. So it is attached to the midline in the hyoid bone and also to the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. That is the upper extent of the pretracheal fascia after enclosing the thyroid gland. The lower extent of this pretracheal fascia, it enters the thorax and blends with the fibrous pericardium. This false capsule, it has one more modification called as ligament of Berry. It is derived from this pretracheal fascia, which connects the medial surface of the lateral lobe of the thyroid gland with the thyroid cartilage. So it attaches like this in this medial surface. There is one more attachment with the thyroid cartilage, and that will be called as the ligament of Berry. So this false capsule, which is directly attaching the gland above to the hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage, explains the gland moves up and down with deglutition. So this is again the second clinical important point for the students. If you think in the front of the neck and it is the thyroid gland swelling, that we should confirm that that swelling moves up and down with deglutition. Then only it is the thyroid gland swelling, as because this pretracheal fascia and the ligament of Berry attaches directly the gland to the hyoid bone and to the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. So there is a space between the true capsule and the false capsule. What are the structures in between this true capsule and the false capsule? Parathyroid glands. Along the posterior borders of the lobes, it will be present. Trunks of the blood vessels supplying the thyroid gland. But the venous plexus lie deep to the true capsule. So these structures are present. What are the structures between true capsule and false capsule? Are the parathyroid glands and the trunks of the blood vessels. Presenting parts of the thyroid gland. Before that, it is having the head-shaped. It is like a head-shaped structure, and it is about 25 grams normally in weight. In females, the weight increases slightly in the pregnancy and menstruation. Parts of the two lateral lobes and one isthmus connecting them across the midline. The measurements of each lobe, are length 5 centimeter, breadth 3 centimeter, and thickness 2 centimeter. So it is head shape, two lateral lobes, and central isthmus. That is the shape and parts of the thyroid gland. We will see now the lobes and isthmus separately. If you take the lobe, each lobe is roughly pyramidal in shape and presents apex, base, three surfaces, and two borders. Surfaces are which is presenting superficially, it will be called as anterolateral. And another surface will be the medial surface, and another surface will be the posterolateral. So lateral, anterolateral, and posterolateral, and one medial surface. And borders are the anterior border and the posterior border. So this picture you have to see the apex of the thyroid gland. So this is the apex of the thyroid gland. And this image is this cut section. We can see the hyoid bone, and this is the thyroid cartilage, and this is the cricoid cartilage. So what is attached in between this cricoid cartilage and thyroid cartilage is the cricothyroid muscle. Another muscle which is present here between the cricoid and thyroid is the inferior constrictor. This muscle sternothyroid, which is attached to the thyroid cartilage. So you see this apex is in between two muscles. What are the two muscles? Inferior constrictor muscle and sternothyroid muscle. So that as if it is sandwiched between the two muscles, inferior constrictor muscle medially. So this is medially and sternothyroid muscle laterally, so that there's any swellings in this thyroid gland, but it can, this apex cannot cross this two muscles in any swellings, but the apex is sandwiched between the two muscles, and thyroid gland enlargements cannot extend above. So sandwiched between two muscles, apex, which is directed upward and laterally towards the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage, is sandwiched between these two muscles. And in the image again you try to see the two important structures, and this is a clinically important if you are operating on the thyroid gland. Near the apex you will see two important structures: superior thyroid artery and the external laryngeal nerve. Superior thyroid artery is the branch of external carotid artery, and this external laryngeal nerve is the branch of the vagus nerve. So these two structures, in this artery lies superficial and nerves pass deep to the apex. So that is the relation of these two structures. So if you are operating in the thyroid gland, you should put the ligature near the apex of the thyroid gland, so that to avoid injury to the nerve. So these two structures are coming near the apex. When they come near the apex only, they separate little. So it is the better place to put the ligature close to the gland. If you try to put a ligature just above the apex of the thyroid gland, you may include the external laryngeal nerve in your ligature. So this is again one important MCQ in the PG entrance. The ligature should be close to the apex of the gland. Base of the lobe of the thyroid gland. Base extends up to the fifth or sixth tracheal rings, and it is related to the loop of the inferior thyroid artery and recurrent laryngeal nerve. So apex is related to one artery and one nerve. Base is related to another artery and another nerve. What is this inferior thyroid artery? It's a branch of thyrocervical trunk of the subclavian artery. Recurrent laryngeal nerve is a branch of vagus. If you see the relation of the artery and the nerve, they may have the variable relation. Sometimes it passes in front or in between the divisions of the artery. It may pass behind the artery also. Therefore, how to keep the ligature of the inferior thyroid artery in your surgeries? Better, the ligature should be applied away from the gland in order to avoid injury to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Recurrent laryngeal nerve is an important nerve for all the intrinsic muscles of the larynx, except one muscle, cricothyroid, which will be supplied by the external laryngeal nerve. So if we are damaging the recurrent laryngeal nerve, we are in problem. So we should know how to put the ligature of the inferior thyroid artery near the gland. It should be away from the gland. So near the apex, it should be close to the gland ligature. Near the base, it should be away from the gland. So we have completed the apex, base. Now we will see the surfaces. First surface, what we are going to see, what is that presenting superficially, that is the anterolateral surface. What are the muscles that will be overlapping this anterolateral surface or superficial surface? What are the muscles? What are the neck muscles that will be covering? What are the strap muscles that will be covering this? So again, if you are doing surgery of the thyroid gland, you have to just retract all these muscles to reach the gland. What are the muscles you should know? They cover this gland from close to the gland to the outer part. So this is the first muscle which is covering the gland. Can you see what is this muscle? Sternothyroid muscle. That is the first relation of the anterolateral surface of the thyroid gland. Next muscle. Next to sternothyroid, you have the another muscle which covers this gland is the sternohyoid muscle. So this is sternothyroid and this is the sternohyoid and the superior belly of omohyoid. So this is the another muscle which covers, here, sternohyoid and the superior belly of the omohyoid. This is the sternohyoid muscle and this is the superior belly of omohyoid muscle. So what is the next muscle which will be covering all these strap muscles? Sternocleidomastoid, a part of sternocleidomastoid. So that's what I was explaining. If you want to operate in this region, you have to retract the muscle one by one. First is the sternomastoid, then you will come into see the sternohyoid and superior belly of omohyoid. The next muscle will be the sternothyroid. So these are the relations of the anterolateral surface. Medial surface, otherwise called deep surface. What are the relations? What are the adjacent parts in this related to the medial surface? Yes, it is related to two tubes, two muscles, and two nerves. So you can see, if you see, this is the deeper surface of the thyroid gland. So it is resting on two tubes, two muscles, and two nerves. What are the two tubes first? What are two tubes? Trachea and esophagus. What are the two muscles? Inferior constrictor and cricothyroid. What are the two nerves? Recurrent laryngeal nerve and the external laryngeal nerve. So this is the relation of the medial surface and it is very interesting. We can remember simply two tubes, two muscles and two nerves. So we have finished this medial surface also. What is the next surface we have not seen? Posterolateral surface. Anterolateral surface we have finished. Posterolateral surface we have to see. Posterolateral surface will be related to, yes, this is the another image which is a diagrammatic you should all draw for your answer of the thyroid gland, which represents all the three surfaces in this one diagram you can draw. So this is the superficial surface or the anterolateral surface related to the muscles. What are the muscles we have seen? First muscle is sternothyroid, sternohyoid and superior belly of omohyoid and sternocleidomastoid. This is the medial surface related to two tubes, trachea and the esophagus. One nerve in between the tracheoesophageal groove is the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So other relations of medial surface is not represented in this diagram. This is the posterolateral surface related to the carotid sheath and its contents. I think you should have learned this carotid sheath in the class. Deep cervical fascia, it is again the important short notes for you. How it is formed, what are the contents, and what are the relations of the contents. So contents of this carotid sheath are the internal jugular vein, common carotid artery, and the vagus nerve. So we have finished the three surfaces now. Anterolateral surface, posterolateral surface, and the medial surface. Now we have to see the border. Anterior border separates what two surfaces? The anterior border separates superficial and the medial surfaces, and it will be having this relation is the anterior descending branch of the superior thyroid artery. So this is the relation anterior descending branch of the superior thyroid artery. Posterior border separates the medial and the posterolateral surfaces, and it is related with the anastomosis of superior thyroid artery and inferior thyroid artery. In this border only parathyroid glands are situated. So superior parathyroid and inferior parathyroid, two on each sides, they are situated on the posterior borders of the lobes of the thyroid gland. So the same image on two sides, and it's an important diagram for the thyroid gland. So in this you can see the borders. What are the borders? Anterior border, we can take this as the anterior border separating these two surfaces, and posterior border separating these two surfaces. Isthmus. Now we will see the isthmus, the next presenting part. It connects both lobes across the midline, and it measures about 1.25 centimeter, both vertical and transverse diameter. Sometimes isthmus may be absent. What are the surfaces, borders of the isthmus? It is very simple, we can tell. What are the surfaces? It will be one front and anterior and posterior surface, and upper border and the lower upper border and the lower border. So relations in front, what are the relations? Same muscles which are covering the superficial surface of the lobe will be extending to the isthmus also. What are the muscles? Sternothyroid and sternohyoid muscles, and anterior jugular vein will be also be present in front of the isthmus. Behind, again it is simple, it is situated in front of tracheal rings. What are the tracheal rings? Second, third and fourth tracheal rings. So that is the behind relations. Upper border, arterial anastomosis of the superior thyroid artery and the inferior thyroid artery will be present along the upper border. Sometimes pyramidal lobe may be present. We have seen in the development of the thyroid gland class, sometimes thyroglossal duct may persist near the thyroid gland as a part of pyramidal lobe. Sometimes fibromuscular band called as levator glandulae thyroideae may extend from the hyoid bone to the isthmus or to the pyramidal lobe. These muscles are striated muscles, and it is supplied by the external laryngeal nerve. Students should take this. This levator glandulae thyroideae is not a part of thyroglossal duct. When it is present, it is some separate fibromuscular band which has developed, and it does not come under the thyroglossal duct. Lower border, the relations of the lower border are the inferior thyroid veins and sometimes arteria thyroidea ema. Arteria thyroidea ema is a branch of arch of aorta, sometimes may be present, which will be related to the lower border of the isthmus of the thyroid gland. So what are the, we have finished the presenting parts of the thyroid gland, two lobes and one isthmus. Lobes are one, each lateral lobe has the relations for the base, apex, supralateral surface, anterolateral surface, medial surface and infralateral surface. And isthmus has the relations front and behind, and has the upper border and the lower border. The lobes have the anterior border and the posterior border. Now we will see the blood supply. First we will see the arterial supply of the thyroid gland. It has now in the beginning introduction we told it has the high vascularity. So what are the blood vessels they are supplying this thyroid gland? Superior thyroid artery, it's a branch of the external carotid artery. Inferior thyroid artery, it's a branch of thyrocervical trunk of the subclavian artery. Arteria thyroidea ema, if present, it is a branch of arch of aorta, sometimes maybe the brachiocephalic trunk. It will supply the isthmus. Sometimes numerous accessory thyroid arteries may be derived from the esophageal branches, tracheal branches. They may supply the gland from the medial or the deep surface. So numerous accessory thyroid arteries. So this completes the arterial supply of the thyroid gland. So this is again one more diagram you should learn for your answer. So this is the superior thyroid artery which is derived from the external carotid artery. So this superior thyroid artery only when we see the relation of the apex we saw this superior thyroid artery is related to the external laryngeal nerve when it reaches. So we have to apply a ligature near the gland. So this is the inferior thyroid artery, which is a branch of the thyrocervical trunk of the subclavian artery. It is related to the nerve, which is the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So you have to keep a ligature away from the gland. So sometimes this is the arteria thyroidea ema from the brachiocephalic trunk or from the arch of aorta. Venous drainage. Superior thyroid vein will accompany the outer border of the superior belly of the omohyoid and drains into internal jugular vein. Middle thyroid vein, which will again follow the medial border of the omohyoid muscle and drains into internal jugular vein. A bunch of inferior thyroid veins will follow the emerge from the lower border of the isthmus, drain into brachiocephalic vein, mainly on the left side. Sometimes fourth thyroid vein, apart from the superior thyroid vein, middle thyroid vein and inferior thyroid vein, fourth thyroid vein that will be called as Kocher's vein emerges from the lower pole, that is the base of the thyroid, base of the lobe of the thyroid gland and drains straight into the internal jugular vein. It may bleed profusely if you don't have in your mind. Sometimes you may have this Kocher's vein. So it should be searched for and ligature first in the early stage of the surgeries. Lymphatic drainage of the thyroid gland. Upper group of lymphatic drainage will be into the prelaryngeal and jugulodigastric lymph nodes. The lower group drains into the pretracheal and group of lymph nodes along the recurrent laryngeal nerve. So this is the venous drainage and lymphatic drainage diagram. Superior thyroid vein follows the outer border of the omohyoid and drains into internal jugular vein. Middle thyroid vein follows the inner border and drains into the internal jugular vein. Inferior thyroid veins, they will drain into the mainly into the left brachiocephalic vein. And this is the artery, superior thyroid artery related to the external laryngeal nerve. And this is the inferior thyroid artery related to the recurrent laryngeal nerve. Now, upper group of lymphatic drainage into the prelaryngeal and jugulodigastric lymph nodes, and lower group of lymph nodes will be into the pretracheal and lymphatics along the recurrent chain. Nerve supply, both sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic will be from the cervical sympathetic ganglia, superior and middle and inferior. Parasympathetic will be from the vagus and the recurrent laryngeal nerves. So we have completed the blood supply, nerve supply and lymphatic drainage of the thyroid gland. And last is the applied anatomy of the thyroid gland. Applied anatomy of the thyroid gland. You should have learned in physiology goiter, that is the enlargement of the thyroid gland. And the causes of the goiter are so many. Thyroglossal cyst and ectopic thyroid, lingual thyroid, these are the Developmental abnormalities of the thyroid gland, which we have learned in the class, development of the thyroid gland. In surgeries, you should know how to ligate the superior thyroid artery, how to ligate the inferior thyroid artery. Tumors of the thyroid gland also common. How to investigate this thyroid gland swelling, whether it is benign or it is malignant. What is that procedure you will do is the fine needle aspiration cytology, FNAC. So this, I think you will be knowing in the embryology class we have already seen. Thyroglossal cyst may be present in this pathway of the thyroglossal duct. Pyramidal lobe may be present. So this completes the gross anatomy of the thyroid gland, which we have seen in detail. It consists of two lobes and one isthmus, and this is the apex of the thyroid gland, and this is the base of the thyroid gland. This is the anterolateral surface of the lobe, and this will be the medial surface of the lobe, and behind this will be the posterolateral surface of the lobe, so that we will have the two borders, anterior border and posterior border. Then we will have the isthmus. This is the upper border and the lower border of the isthmus, and this relations of this lobes and isthmus we have seen in detail. Arterial supply is from the superior thyroid artery and the inferior thyroid artery. Venous drainage is by the superior thyroid vein and inferior thyroid veins, which are draining into the internal jugular vein. Inferior thyroid veins will be draining into the brachiocephalic vein. Applied anatomy are so many. This thyroid gland is an important topic for the surgical oriented topic, because if you become surgeons, the main surgery in the head and neck region, which the general surgeons will be allowed to do, is only this thyroid gland. So you should know first, you should confirm how to know how this is the thyroid gland swelling and how to investigate, and what is that surgery will be called as if you remove the thyroid gland, thyroidectomy. So this completes this class. We will continue with the next topics of this head and neck region in the next class. I hope everyone has understood this important topic.